Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or tea and sit back, relax, and let's chat about everything that's going on for the weekend because it's Friday. Yay! I'm so excited to have a weekend. Hopefully, it's going to be a nice one. And astrologically, it seems like it's going to be a good one with just a couple of little bumps and thumps along the way. No big deal. We can get through it. We're used to this, right? We're troopers now. We know how to get through these difficult transits. And this weekend doesn't present us with anything major in the way of challenges. But we should break it down because there's a lot to talk about. And I have 3 charts for 3 people I'm doing readings for today. And I'm hoping my equipment is going to, I really just want to freak out because I don't know what's going on. My house system internet is perfect, yet I seem to be lagging, and that's driving me crazy. At any rate, I promise I won't throw a tantrum here, but just a moment. My computer is seemingly off balance. There we go. So let's dive in, shall we? Good morning, Mimi and Camille. I see the 2 of you out there. It's great to see you this morning. And I got to make sure I turn my phone off because I started to do this. You know, I've had a lot of time this morning to do stuff. And yeah, it's off. And I swear I ran out of time because I had so much I wanted to put into today. I'm going to have to put off one of the major things that I wanted to talk about. We'll do that maybe on Monday or Tuesday. For right now, let's take a look at what's going on today. And then we're going to take a look at Saturday and Sunday. And then we're going to do a couple of readings. And then we're going to look at the Pleiadian Earth energy astrology. So that kind of gives you the template for the day. Today we start with the moon in Leo. Yes, I love it when the moon is Leo. It is, you know, where we feel better. We're more generous. We're optimistic. We seem to have a lot going on for us. There's just there is an optimistic feel, but it's also one that's just sort of triggering generosity of spirit, generosity in our time, etc. The things that we want to share with others. Today we are in fact, the whole of the day today, the moon is in Leo, and it is going to be in a sextile to the sun and a trine to Jupiter. These are good flowing sort of energies. So the whole of the day may be one that feels really good. When we have the sun and moon working together in a good way, we have the possibility for new ideas, for new creative impulses. We have the ability to work together in a way that we don't, often get to. So, or that we just don't focus on. So today's one of those days with the moon in Leo where we're going to be able to work together and possibly even find new solutions to old dilemmas. I like it when we have the sun and the moon kind of working together that way. One of the things that I was going to also focus on today is Mercury in a sextile to Uranus. And you know what? Sextiles are an aspect of the planets and how they work together. Remember yesterday we were sort of talking about how they were relationships, right? And the relationship then between the planet Mercury and the planet Uranus today are working together. It's smooth, right? It is also backing up the sun and the moon in their sextile to create new ideas, possible new approaches to how you might want to solve an old problem. It is giving us both access to logic and also to intuition. So we need both, right? Sometimes we get overly into the logical side of things. When we do that, of course, it's hard for us to listen to any other part of ourselves. So we're invoking 2 ways of knowing when we have Mercury and the moon in a sextile to the sun and to Uranus. And it gives us then a more rounded approach, let's say. But I also want to remind you guys that this is mental and emotional. These are both mental and emotional approaches. So if we lean too far to the emotional side, we may not see clearly with the facts and the figures. And if we lean too far to the figures and the logical side, we may not see so much what we really feel about what it is that we're trying to create or what we're doing. So we want to do a nice little balance here of those energies. Mercury is in the sign of Cancer, which is water, and Uranus in the sign of Taurus, which is earth. Water and earth flow together nicely, right? The water waters the earth, feeds the earth nutrients, and also keeps it moist, and the earth supports and yields to water. So we have energies that work well together. Remember, Uranus is a planet that's right now in Taurus, and it's creating some financial impacts. It may not be so obvious as we look out into the world as to what is happening here, but when we see a lot of, at least here in the US, and I know some of you guys aren't in the US, so maybe look to what's happening in your own countries as far as taxes are concerned, and how the government is creating more taxes or releasing you from taxes, because tax money and Taurus go together. Government, money, financial systems, the economy are all interlinked. And when we have Uranus in a sign like Taurus, it adds some instability to that financial picture. And we're moving into a week in the human design that is one that's based in finances. The sun will be at gate 45 beginning tomorrow, and the gate 45 is a money gate. It's called, the channel that it's a part of is called the channel of money, or it is part of, is in Gene Key speak, it is part of the ring of prosperity. So for the foreseeable future, we're going to be working out the energies of prosperity versus the energy of lack consciousness. And we're going to see that sort of displayed as well in the outer world, because Uranus and Mercury are communicating a message about relative health or not health of finances. And because Uranus is an outer planet, it's really moving through the collective out in the outer world. So kind of things that are beyond your own personal control. But the fact that Mercury's involved here says that it's also a personal planet, and that there is the possibility for you to latch on to, get into the flow of prosperity. And what does it take to be prosperous, right? How do you grow your money? How do you spend your money wisely and make it all work in a flow, right? Water, Mercury in water, flow, Uranus in earth, being sustainable, right? Or grounded, or practical. There you have that. All right, let's see who else is out here this morning. Good morning, Latricia. It's good to see you. And Patricia Woods, good morning. She says, I feel more optimistic and a bit of a spring in my step. I like that. Good morning, Linda. Hi, I woke up in time today. I've had a hard time waking up. Glad I made it. I missed you. We missed you too, Linda. And maybe go to bed earlier. I know it's, for me up here in the Pacific Northwest, it is really hard to go to bed at a decent time, because right now the sun isn't even setting until almost 9 o'clock, which means at 10 o'clock or so, when, I'm starting to wind down and want to go to bed, it's still light out there. In fact, last night I had gotten up really early yesterday morning. So last night I was tired at 10 o'clock, and I crawl into bed and I lay down and turn off the lights, and I open my eyes and I look around. I'm like, Terry, did you leave a light on? He's like, no. I'm like, well, why is it so bright? Because the sun was still casting this bright glow on the horizon at 10 o'clock at night. It was actually after 10. It was like 10:15. And I'm like, okay, Janet, you're just going to have to close your eyes and just ignore the fact that there's light, because you're not going to get rid of it anytime soon, right? We still are, 3 weeks away from 2 weeks away from the summer solstice. And then it's going to take time for that light to wane away again. So not complaining, because I like those nights with the light. But if you want to go to bed early in the Pacific Northwest right now, it's really hard. So you could probably go to bed earlier than me, Linda, because it's darker earlier where you are. Good morning, Asa. I think I said that already. Sarah, good morning. Lynn, good morning. And Linda says, wow, all this fits what is happening in my life. Colleen, good morning to you. So we have that's pretty much our day today. Today's a really good, feel good day. The things you might come up against are minor, right? And it might be that you may have a tendency of being overly optimistic today. And for once, I'm going to tell you, maybe that's okay. As long as you don't make big decisions based in that over optimism, I think you're going to be good, right? The thing is, the hardest part to remember about prosperity is when seemingly something comes out of the blue and hits you like a bill, right? Something you didn't expect, or business declines, right? Or something like that where you're going, panic, right? Remember, it's a flow, and a flow is always restored. So we have that today. Also, the fly in the ointment, if you will, the little undercurrent that might be going around. And this is going to play out differently based on how old you are. The older you are, the more likely this is going to play out in a healing way. The younger you are, the more sensitive you may be to something that's a trigger. And let's make the dividing line 50. If you're 50 and over, likely it's going to be more of a healing experience. If you're younger, it could be a trigger to something that you have to work out within yourself. And that is because today Mercury is squaring or challenging Chiron. So Mercury in water, right? It's in the sign of Cancer, protective, nurturing, a little bit cautious. Meets up with Chiron in Aries, which is fire, right? Which is learning about the difference between codependence and independence and trying to move more toward interdependence. And here we may be today somewhat sensitive to criticism. If someone is criticizing our decisions, we may be overly sensitive. So constructive criticism today may not be greeted the way it is meant to be received or given, and we may be quick to judge what's going on around us. Now, I want to say this is a minor thing, but Chiron is playing pretty powerfully in our overall astrological signature, quietly but insistently. And the insistence here is for us to learn to work together, right? To work together. So if you are hurt by something that someone says to you today, then you've got to come back inward and ask yourself the question, what does this mean for me? Right? Why am I being sensitive? If you're some of you that are in your 40s, so I'm going to say 46, 44 to maybe, 7 years. So probably about age 44 to 50, you guys are you're approaching your Chiron return. So you may have this feeling of a crescendo happening, right? Where some things may be coming to a head for you in your life. Now, today is a day that is going to be maybe a trigger in some way, but it's not going to last. This isn't one of those long-term kind of things. Tomorrow, it'll be a different story. If indeed that happens, take the time to work through it. Right? Otherwise, it's all for naught, right? You got to work through these things. Sarah, okay, wait, let me back up a little bit here. Linda says, I signed papers on selling the office building. Oh, yes. Good morning, Susan Glavin. She says, oh, joy, feeling it. Well, Susan, you're feeling it, of course, sweetheart, because of Cancer. You are what I think I remember your chart as a triple Cancer, right? Sun, moon, rising sign in Cancer. If at the very least, I know you're a sun sign Cancer. So definitely, something that's triggering for you perhaps, or things that you have to move through. Lynn says, our sun sets after 9 as well. Yes, still seems light at 10. It's the 4th of July, Collie, or Lynn, we don't even get to start our fireworks, the big shows, until usually about 10:15. So it makes for a late night. And let's see, Sarah, I had a really scary but honest dream. Could I get a reading today? Honey, I've already pulled the charts for the people I'm going to do readings with today. I might be able to pull a card for you, though. So I hope the dreams are... Sarah says it had to do with my relationships. Break it down, Sarah. Break down the dream. What were the symbols in the dream? What was it representing? It's really almost rare that it's a literal anything, right? Your dreams are symbolic, and it could speak to a fear that you have already about something, maybe being abandoned in a relationship, someone dying and leaving you, not being supported, people turning their back on you, betrayal. Lots of those kinds of things, those fears can be triggered, and then they pop up in your dreams for you to work through, for you to call it to your attention and say, oh, yeah, that's what that is. So maybe just, write out the dream, journal it, and, get a feel for what that means for you. and break it down. Allison, good morning. Sorry, I'm so late. Good morning. You're not that late, sweetie. We just started 10, 15 minutes ago. You're good. You're good. Susan says sun and moon, sun, moon is a Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising. Water everywhere. Serena, good morning. And Sarah says losing one person to gain another. So break that down. What's scary about that, right? What's the feeling there for you? So I know I've had many, the scariest dreams that I have are the ones of floods. What do you call those things? Tidal waves. I get those tornadoes, right? Usually those happen when my life is in chaos or when my emotional self is in chaos. And I love breaking those kind down because I can almost always see what the emotional trigger was to the dream. Yours may be a little different, maybe a conversation, maybe something between you and someone else that triggered that fear. So be willing to break it down and see what it means. These are ways that we become responsible for ourselves, right? For our actions, for our health, for our overall well-being. So break it down, see what it means. Now, when we move into Saturday, tomorrow, the moon the moon turns void of course at 2:24 p.m. and is that way until 2:46 p.m. my time. So literally a 20-minute void of course moon. So remember, the void of course moon usually is a time when the forward momentum stops, right? The moon doesn't make any new connections to any other planets or points in the chart for a while. And it usually is a time where we can't make progress. It's a time better spent in meditation or reading or quiet, withdrawal, escaping into something else. It's definitely not a time to push things forward. So we have a whole 20 minutes tomorrow where that is true before the moon moves out of Leo and into Virgo. And then the big news for Saturday is Venus moving out of Taurus and into Gemini, where she will be, I believe it is until July 3rd. So she spends about 4 weeks there. And Venus, is a planet that is represents our relationships, beauty, harmony and peace, our money and flow. She kind of takes up a lot of different spaces. And when she's in Gemini, the first word that came to my mind was fickle. She's fickle, right? She wants variety when she's in the sign of Gemini. So she may be leaping from thing to thing. So our relationships become more mentally based. We can have great conversations with one another. So if there's something for you, for example, Sarah, going on with someone else, maybe it's something where you can sit down and chat with them about it, but maybe wait until after Saturday when we've got, because then it can be lighthearted, but also meeting of the minds, right? There's a bonding that goes on with one another in the mind, in the mental plane, let's put it that way. And if you can have a meeting of the minds, and remember, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so there's also conversation going on here. And we can open up maybe pathways for the next few weeks in conversation. How do we meet each other by communication? There's also a sense of adventure when Venus is in Gemini. Gemini is a sign that is curious and moves through things, looking for new information, for new experiences. And Venus is going to be doing that same thing. She's trying on that kind of clothing at this point in time, right? She's going to be looking for that variety, adventure, communication. And it may mean, while she's got her focus on you, you are her world. And the next moment she's on somebody else's world. And if we tie that into each other and how we are feeling ourselves, you are also embodying this. So you may feel yourself sort of fluttering from thing to thing. I think of Venus and Gemini as the bees that go from flower to flower. They're doing what they're here to do. right? That go from flower to flower, collecting nectar, pollinating the other flowers. They're not apologetic for the fact that they don't stay forever on one flower, right? That's their job. They move from flower to flower. So Venus in Gemini, she's moving from flower to flower. You are moving from flower to flower. That may be opportunity to opportunity, person to person, and wanting that variety of experiences that can come through being open to variety. And again, of course, that is happening until July 3rd. So we've got a while here. Anyway, Venus and Gemini tomorrow. Uranus is also in a trine to the moon once the moon moves into Virgo. Here we have a smooth flow of practical energy. And I kind of like it. Of course, I have the moon in Virgo by birth, so that's probably why I like it. Some of you might not like it so much, but I like it when the moon is in Virgo because I get things done. The moon in Virgo seems to align us with the ability to be practical, to be more organized, to be grounded. And I really think that the moon tomorrow gives us that access to seeing where we can move and the steps to get there. Right. If you've been working on something and you're sort of been slowed down because Mars in Cancer slows everything down, tomorrow or Saturday and Sunday even may give you more access to the plan, to the steps that one needs to take to get there. And, keep your handy dandy phone or recording a journal, something that you can take notes in, because the pathway forward, the steps may actually appear tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to check something really quickly because I have a sense that the moon is going to be moving through. Let's see, tomorrow is the 8th. Yeah. See, the moon tomorrow is moving through the gate of answers and the gate of commitment and the gate of creativity. So we have a lot of ability to make new inroads, to see new ways of doing things also on Saturday. So love that, right? It kind of blends Friday into Saturday, meets them up together, and being able, how when we have creative ideas, we get these great, brilliant ideas. I have millions of them. My Earth sits at gate 11. I have millions of ideas. I can't take action on all of them, but I can't also leave them all up in my head. Some of them are meant to be given away to other people, say, hey, why don't you do that? Others of them are meant for me to take action on. And I'm speaking actually for all of us as well. And unfortunately, ideas often get caught up in our heads. And the moon in Virgo and Uranus in Taurus are bringing us to a point where they can no longer just stay up here floating around. We actually have to do something, right? You gotta put the pedal to the metal, or you have to actually put, what is that, where the rubber meets the road, right? You gotta do something, or it just remains up here as a creative idea, eventually creating frustration and anger within yourself because you're not expressing those brilliant ideas. So take some time this weekend to map it out, right? Make a plan. It doesn't mean that you have to stick by that plan and do only those steps, because, a plan can also be mutable. It has to have room in it for us to change the plan as conditions change in our lives. So take advantage. The moon in Virgo on Sunday makes a ton of connections to other planets. Let me give you the list. Sextiles Mercury, sextiles Mars, opposes Neptune, is squaring the sun, trines Saturn, squares Jupiter. Almost every planet in the system, it seems like, is engaged on Sunday with the moon. Now, that can make for a lot of up and down energy, but it can also make up a lot of potential for ideas to flow from here up in the head and down into your hand and onto paper, or from your mouth, throat, onto a recording, so that you can actually see what the next steps are. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, we're also coming to the first quarter moon, which is the crisis of action, right? That's where the sun and the moon come to a square with one another, the first challenge point of the lunar cycle. So the lunar cycle begins with the new moon, where we set these powerful intentions for what we want to manifest. 1 week later, we get to the quarter moon, the first quarter, and we are challenged by, what do I do? Where do I go? somebody says something to you that puts up a block in your path. And now that block, which may have just been a pebble at one point, gets taken up by your mind and possibly expanded. And now it's a freaking boulder and it's blocking you from doing anything. And then we fail to see that we could walk around that boulder. We could blow it up. We could walk up and over it, climb over it, right? Boulders, things in our pathway that appear to be stopping us are only calls for us to get better aligned with what the right path of flow is. Does that make sense to everybody, right? There's a path of flow. Sometimes a boulder is just a boulder and we just walk around it. Like I'm going for a hike on a trail on Sunday, and in the write-up of the trail, it says, hey, there was a landslide that was blocking the trail. You might have to go around the landslide or, make your own path around the landslide and to continue on the trail. I'm like, cool, that's exactly the model of life, right? You never know when there's going to be a landslide, a boulder. That's funny that trail I'm walking is on Sunday when this is occurring. And the possibility exists that I have to walk around it, that I may be blocked, but I'm not stopped completely. Hopefully everybody's catching this metaphor, right? Take a look at whatever it is that's in your way and find the way around it. Or maybe it's, the trajectory that you need to change, right? Where you're moving in a different direction. Follow the signs in your world. Sarah, going back to her dream. Okay, this is good. One person stands for stability and trust, and the other is a deep connection that has come and gone. So you're holding on to the past, it sounds like there. And maybe the fear is that you won't be able to have that kind of deep connection with the other person, even though they represent stability and trust. So taking a look at that, what's more important to you, and why couldn't you have that same deep connection? And I feel like sometimes we hold on to the relationships. Sometimes it's because you have an open identity center in your human design. Sometimes it's the preponderance of Scorpio energy in a chart that causes us to hold on to emotions and grievances, or, connections that, where we're grieving something. So release yourself from that, Sarah. Let's move you forward. Colleen says, I have the opposite problem with the sun. It's waking me up super early. I need to go to bed earlier, but never do. That's too funny because, it's happening to me too. 5 a.m., light in my eye. Good morning, Kathy. I always have so many ideas going around in my head. Has been a lifetime struggle, almost done with cleaning out her craft room and looking forward to feeling ready to start a new project. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, Virgo energy very much allows us that pathway to do something new anyway. Cleaning out something or cleaning up something or purifying something, or it's kind of fun. Some people don't like it, but I think it's fun. So now also on Sunday, the sun is going to be coming into a square with Neptune. So it's same time, that the moon is opposing Neptune and squaring the sun. The sun is also squaring Neptune. I didn't take a picture of this. Let me see if I can draw this out really quickly on a chart here for you. Let's see. Can I do that on this chart? I can. So here's Neptune, except you're going to have to pretend that the moon is over here. I'm going to draw a picture of the moon in red, opposing Neptune up here, and the sun is over here. There we go. So I'm going to show you this chart, and I've got to scroll my screen. Hold on for a second here, guys. There. It's hard to see because there's so much red already on this chart, but look at the long line that I've drawn here. This is the sun and the opposition to the moon. This is Neptune up here, and this is the moon. So it's the opposition of the moon and Neptune. And over here, we have the square to the sun. This is the sun over here. So we have the sun squaring the moon, and we have the sun squaring Neptune on Sunday. And does that create a, wow, it may just, I'm not sure if that's going to work out right, but it might. There may be a stability factor in all of that, because on the other side, just about at the same degrees, is Jupiter in Sagittarius at 19 degrees. The sun and moon and so forth will be around 18 degrees. So that's pretty darn close. So a stabilizing factor to all of these squares, or to the square of the sun and the moon, creating that crisis of action, and the sun and Neptune creating kind of a need to get more spiritually grounded, to get back in our bodies, is Jupiter over there in Sagittarius, which is causing us optimism and to grow, the urge to grow and evolve. So we have this evolutionary impulse running through, that some of these squares or challenges cause us to realign ourselves with what's right for us. To, without squares, we would just always be in sort of this rut energy, right? We need the energy of those squares to kind of knock us out of our reverie, if you will. So although Sunday has the possibility for some movement, it has to come with some really deep inner work first, and also looking at what it is that you perceive as blocking you and finding the pathway around it. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Good morning, Courtney. And Elisa, good morning, or Elisa. Nice to see you out there too. Okay. Sunday, Saturday, Monday, Friday. I think I've covered it all. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to Pleiadian. No, I'm going to do a couple of readings first, because I know people are on here waiting. So Serena, I'm going to pull your chart up first, and I am going to hold on and share my desktop screen. Hold on, I need to get to this chart. There we go. Now I'm going to share my desktop screen. And I'm going to wait for just a moment here, Serena. This is what I want. Now, Serena and Asa and Allison, I emailed all three of you ladies your charts this morning. So hopefully you got that email. If you didn't, I want you to go ahead and, if you can, while you're listening, open up your charts, because your charts I marked up for you. And I can't show the marked up charts for some reason. This program isn't, playing very nicely with me today. And so it's a possibility that I won't get to, so you won't see the markings on the screen that I'm going to share. Now, why application window? Oh, Chrome tab, that's why. There we go. And then I'm going to hide myself. Yay. Okay, so now you guys should be seeing a chart. And this chart happens to be Serena's chart. And Serena, there were a couple of things that I noted. So she had asked me to talk about relationships, or Serena, you had asked me to talk about relationships. And what came so powerfully through your chart today is that the bulk of the energy for you is up here in the 11th house of friendships and the groups that you identify with, and your desires, your wishes, hopes, and dreams, and the 12th house, which is uncovering of the hidden you, uncovering of the real you, if you want to put it in those terms. And first of all, you have Chiron moving through that part of your chart, the 11th house. You're not quite to your Chiron return. That's going to happen in, several more years. But it's in the same sign. So you're really learning to pull the you out of the dark, if you will, or out of obscurity, and focus on your desires, your hopes, your dreams. But there's a wound around this for you. And I wonder, sometimes the wound comes up because people in your conditioning, so as a child perhaps, or as you were growing up, there wasn't maybe anybody that really said to you, hey, Serena, what do you want? It might have been more like you got to go out there and do what you got to do, right? Maybe parents or a community or a culture of get down to business and get her done, right? And, forget your desires and your dreams. You got to do what you need to do to survive. And that sets you up then to experience a wound when it comes to you actually being able to connect to what it is that you desire. And I hope you guys can see my mouse moving around. This is happening right here in this part of your chart. I don't have something I can mark it up with. So, Serena, in your personal chart, look up here toward the yellow highlighted area, Aries and Taurus. So that's first up, is that you've got to get in touch with what you want. If you look at your chart, you have Pallas Athena, you have all the goddesses. The goddesses are in Aries in your chart. You are headstrong, you are willful, you have desires, they burn within you. It's time to let them burn outward, right? Not just inward. You have Pallas Athena, the Black Moon Lilith, and Eris, and Chiron, all in Aries, right? In this 11th house. It may mean that maybe you've had difficult relationships or friendships, or when you're in a group, maybe other people depend on you too much, or you depend on others too much. So you're learning a lot of lessons about who you are and about who you are in a group, and then also relating to your desires. So relationships right now are not the focus. If anything, the relationship is on who are you? Who am I? Ask yourself that question. Who am I? What do I want? Who do I want to be? Am I living the life I want to live? Or am I pining away for something that is from the past, or for something that, dreams that have been scattered behind you? So Serena, I'm going to ask you to, make some, comments here. Oh, you did. Good, good, good. She said, yes, I got it. So she says, yeah, I was taught to go out and work hard at a job without finding my passion. Do you see how you were set up? Right? You're set up. Your astrologer is here to tell you, find your gosh darn passion and live from that. Right? I think what maybe in human design, we call this misplaced motivation, mistaken motivation. Right? Instead of living your passion in the way that you are meant to be living your passion, doing what you love out in the world, you're looking for it in relationships. And it won't fulfill you in relationships because that's not where your passion is. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a satisfying relationship. Your 7th house, we all have one, is the house of marriage. Your 5th house is the house of marriage or deep relationships, partnerships, bonding, right? And the 5th house is the house of love and romance. So you have energy in there. You are the potential here for a love of your life is so powerful, but it has to be met. Look at who's here. Right down here is Pallas Athena. And Pallas Athena today is on top of your natal Pluto. There's this powerful transformation that needs to happen in order for you to have satisfying relationships. And it comes from you living your passion. And let me guess, it was your dad or a male in your life that that was the most loud voice in telling you had to live via getting a job or doing, working. Because it seems like Pallas Athena, she's where we need to balance both the feminine and the masculine. Yet the masculine archetype for you as a woman comes from the most the authority figure in your younger years. So typically that's the father, but sometimes there's an absent father, and that plays into it as well. And then another person takes over, another male, maybe it's a brother or an uncle or something like that. She says, yeah, it was her dad. So your dad has set you up for a model of living exactly contrary to what it is that you're meant to be doing. Like, I could see you being in business for yourself. I could see you out there advocating for women. I could see you out there advocating for children or justice or fairness. I mean, gosh, there's so many things you could be doing out there. You have to first find your passion, align yourself with that passion, and then go for it. Don't allow the wound to sway you, right? That's going to take you down. The goddesses are in your favor today too. Eris, the goddess of discord, right? She threw the golden apple out in the wedding, it was a mythology, right? In mythology, the goddess Eris was, she was revengeful, she was jealous, and she would do things that caused chaos. And so in our own personal lives, by transit, she creates chaos. She's on top of your natal Jupiter. And Jupiter's about growth and expansion into being an independent, beautiful, passionate soul, boldly going. And this is for you in your chart. And she's disturbing the peace around that, right? And indeed, she may disturb your relationships to get you to really focus on, what do I want? Right? What do I want? Because I think maybe your Pluto and Moon in Libra have you living vicariously through a partner. And if you don't have a partner, then what does your life mean? So you got to move over to the I am, I want, I desire, I love, I'm passionate about. And I'm going to give you 2 books to read, possible books to read. One I can show you. I'm going to stop showing my screen here and I'm going to go solo. So there's one here. If you don't know what you're passionate about, get this book. Finding Your Own North Star, Claiming the Life You Were Meant to Live by Martha Beck. The other book that I don't have sitting here at my desk, it's in the other room, is called The Passion Test. And it's by Janet Atwood. There's another author, her husband. I think it's Chris and Janet Atwood. And it's called The Passion Test. Both books, this one has exercises in it, right? There are pages in there that you can actually do exercises. And I would tell you, I did some of this and it was amazing. I did the Passion Test several years ago and it was amazing, right? It came out very clearly what I was passionate about and gave me the template to connect with that. So even though I know what you wanted to talk about was relationships, the relationship you really need to have is one that you have with your passion. And how are you going to express that? And oh, by the way, the 12th house planets are keeping you from that, right? They're hiding it. It's like layered underneath a bunch of BS, right? So take a deeper look at what are some of the beliefs you're holding about yourself, right? What are some of the hidden subconscious ways that you sabotage yourself, that you limit yourself, and that you hold yourself back? And trust me when I say these are all things based in the past, not in your current time. Your current time is not necessarily what's in that 12th house. It is like baggage that you have to uncover, right? So that you can move forward. Now, in a few days, let's see, I can count the days here. 1, 2, 3, 4. In about 4 days, 5 days, the sun is going to come across your Mars. Your Mars is in Gemini, and the sun, of course, is in Gemini. When the sun reaches 19 Gemini, you are going to have a highly energetic day. So I'm telling you, do the behind the scenes work now. Clear out the clutter, clear out the junk in your, I was going to say junk in your trunk, but clear out the junk in your mind and get clear, because when the sun comes across Mars, you want to be able to jump out there and take action, right? It's the only time this year that happens for you. It'll be a whole nother year before that happens again. Take some action, use that energy wisely. All right. I hope that helps. Thank you. I'm definitely going to get those books. Definitely get those books. By the way, in both books, particularly the Passion Test, it is helpful to have someone you trust and value to work through some of those exercises with you to help you see things clearly. And both books explain a little bit about that for you. So, have a sister, a brother, a best friend, a coworker, someone that you really trust and value that you can do this with. Okay. All right. Good morning, Michelle, Holly, new person. It's nice to see you. And Serena says, thank you so much. Good, 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 good. All right. So the next person on my list this morning was, let's see who's the next chart up is Asa. Asa, I know you saw your chart because you emailed me back saying that you received it. So I'm going to go back to, hold on while I switch this over to another person. Asa Libra. And then we'll look at your chart. And by the way, I know some of you aren't getting readings today, but a lot of this stuff should sound familiar to you because we are all one, right? We're all one. And even though this was specific reading for Serena, some of the transits for everybody else are also triggering this for you. You all have an 11th house, and you all have planets that are probably transiting through it or were there by birth. And you need to also discover your passion and live by your passion. And so there's always the possibility then of solo. Now let's make sure I'm seeing, I hope you guys are seeing ACE's chart. Why does that look weird? I can't see. Can somebody who's out? Yeah, it does say ASA up there. Okay, good. So ASA, I'm looking at your chart. And again, same thing with you. I couldn't show the colored chart for some reason. So I am highlighting certain things, and the circles on your chart are important because just like Serena, and by the way, there's no mistake the group of people who ended up wanting readings today, because you have common things, common denominators going on in your chart. And the common denominators for you three are about the goddesses, the goddess planets or dwarf planets or asteroids, whatever you want to call them, that are gaining in power as time goes on, and as astrologers pick up this energy and begin to use these goddesses in readings. And Asa, I think yours perhaps was the most freaking striking of the three charts in terms of the power of the goddesses. So I think, how can I say this? So I think you've been living in a man's world, right? And all of us women, we've been living in a patriarchy where we are having to sort of grab onto everything that is in our, kind of scrabbling our way forward to get to where we want to go. Right. So things haven't been easy for us as the divine feminine, right? We have these natural inclinations. We're naturally receptive, but we're living in a patriarchy that's sort of forcing us through to do things in a different way than is natural for us. Well, now the goddesses are gaining power and saying, wait a minute, though, we have to value both parts of ourselves. And that means that in some cases we have to bring up that goddess energy. And Asa, in your chart, it's all about bringing up this goddess energy. So the first thing that I see up here in Virgo, which is also your 10th house of career, by the way, where you have Uranus and Pluto and the part of fortune. So you're meant to have a career you love, one that is empowering, one where you are empowering others. And oh, by the way, you have Uranus there, which is also possibly an indicator of astrology. And guess what you're doing, right? Guess what you're getting ready to do. So when I looked at your chart, I see the Selena is moving through here. Now, for you all listening here, Selena may be something new. For you guys who are in my membership, we had a webinar last month about Selena. And the white moon, Selena, is where your light shines the brightest. And she transits through a house and a sign, and she puts focus on the part of the light that is next, the next spectrum of the light that you need to focus on. And she's focusing her light right now, your light, in your career, in Virgo, putting the pedal to the metal, doing the work, taking action on what it is that you are here to do. And I feel like, Asa, you have a specific path here, and it's through transformation. I think your own personal transformation becomes the path that you help others with. That's pretty clear here too. And that the light's being shined brighter and brighter on that. And if we look to where your natal white moon Selena is, she is up in the 11th house, 10th house. She sits right on the cusp. She's actually at 29 degrees of Virgo, but that puts her in your 11th house of what do you want, right? Following, much like I just said to Serena, following your passion. And if you were out there in the man's world working a job that was basically just killing you or taking away all of your joy, then it's time to find your light and shine your light, because it's in the house of desires. And working with groups of people, you're not meant to sit behind a desk and just work one-on-one. like me picking up the phone or you dealing with paperwork, that kind of thing. You're meant to be doing more than that. That's where your light is, right? But there's a karmic connection here. It's at 29 degrees. So it might be hard for you to find your light, and it's time for you to find your light, and you have help there too. Because Pallas Athena is at her return point for you. And I'd have to look it up. I don't know for sure how long a cycle is, so I can't tell you. Well, let me just see. I'm on the internet right now. I'll just look it up. What is the Google? Tell me the cycle of Pallas Athena, and how long does she take to go through a chart? We'll just see if I can't find that. If I can't, I'll find it later for you. But my point in this is that it is. How did I end up in flower essences? That's too funny. I'll look this up later because I don't want to take the time right now. Oh my gosh, it's already 9 o'clock, 10 to 9. Okay. Pallas Athena, in this case, in a return, says it is a time for you to get clarity about the action you're going to take. Here, Pallas is often, for a woman anyway, she is looking again at the male dominated, the dominant males in your life as a child in particular. And, growing up, who were your biggest male influences? And then how did they influence you? Was it positive? Did they show you that you go out and you do what you want and you get somewhere? Or did they show you, something different? Did they show you conflict and confrontation and irritation in the world? And so you withdrew from that, right? You withdraw from that race to get somewhere because you see the hazards of it because of what goes on in your family or in the male part of your family. But you aren't them, right? So the key here is for you to really lock on to your desires and to your passions and to live from them, to set goals and to move forward with those goals. The energy in Libra, of course, sometimes waffles, and it waffles with indecision because almost exclusively Libra sees two sides to everything. Well, if I do this, then it's going to affect this and it's going to affect this person. But if I do this, then it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And then you get caught in the middle without making any decisions. It's annoying, right? But you have to make a decision. And the decision in this case has to be based on what do you desire? Where are you going? What do you want? When you ask yourself that question, the doors open for you to move. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting in your chart, and again, this is another relatively new piece over there circled in blue in the chart I sent you, is the planet Venus transiting, and everybody has this today, transiting in conjunction to Sedna. And Sedna is an asteroid. I don't know that it's been elevated yet to dwarf planet status. Yet it is a planet that relates to abundance. It is a planet that relates to our earning power. Venus is also here, earning power, our resources being spent on us for the things that we want that support us and our dreams and our passions. And that's so clear in your chart. And it's in the sign of Taurus, by the way, a financial sign, right? Very end of Taurus, and happening today, right? Where you're forging new relationships in order to support your dreams, your goals, and your desires. So, Asa, what you think about that? Absent dad, famous uncle, silent stepfather. You've got a trio there. Think about that. Absent dad. So dad wasn't there as a model for how it was that you were meant to move forward, use the power principle in your life. A famous uncle who, in that case, gets everything clouds, right? Around his fame, around his celebrity, right? And you're all the shadows of that celebrity, right? And a silent stepfather. Well, that's helpful, right? So you're getting nothing from the male principle. Yeah. Except you see the violence that occurred, right, with that famous uncle. And so you're going to have to lean in the feminine, right? You're going to have to be able to say to that masculine, we're going this direction, follow me, and take yourself there where you want to go, because you don't have the you don't have the model that is going to get you there. I hope that helps. And you're going to learn how to do all this yourself, right? You're going to learn how to track all this down yourself, and to do. And by the way, you're on a long-term path now of Selena and Pallas Athena moving through the most highly energetic part of your chart. You're going to be provoked. You're going to get, those pins stuck in your side as you move through the next several months, as you are awakening and allowing more and more truth of who you are and what you want to come to the surface. So be prepared. Okay. Any questions there? She says, boom, always had to play the male role in my life and relationships. You hit on, there we go. See, you're just ready to move forward. Okay. So next one is going to be Allison. I hope you got yours too, Allison, because your chart's fun to look at as well. Let me get back here and change the chart over to Allison's. And oops, I gotta go this way. How's everybody else doing out there? Are you guys understanding what we're talking about? Does it resonate with you guys? And are you seeing connections in your own charts, perhaps, or in your own lives to what's being said? I'm always fascinated by that, because, groups that come together are often in resonance, or our frequencies begin to sync as we come together. And so it's never surprising to me to see how it is that who shows up on a given day, the same sort of familiar experiences that we're having, because once we're all together in this sort of format, our hearts begin to sync, right? We sync up, and we're syncing, right? We're sync, SYNCH, sync, not sinking like we're diving down, although we're diving down too. Okay, so now let's take a look here at Alice's chart, or Allison's chart. So Allison, I highlighted, you asked me specific questions, and that's always helpful, right? For us to look at specific things, but I started looking at your chart and other things show up. That's just the way it goes. So yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about money for you, but then I'm going to dive into something else. And that's because today you are literally sitting at your Chiron return. And I don't know, let's see, you were born in 1970. So I can't even think about how old that makes you then. That makes you 49, I'm thinking. So 49 to 50, you'll be 50, I think, in next December. So your Chiron return is a little bit early, which means it's going to be a little bit extended. So it happens now. Chiron will retrograde back over it, and then it's going to go back forward again. So lucky for you, you get this extended period of this healing in your life. And it can be healing around ways in which you needed to claim your independence versus being overly dependent, where you have to bring out more of the I am, right? There's adventure ahead of you. There's a new boldness that's coming. And those are the things that have wounded you in the past. And here you are now at your Chiron return, and it's all about the healing. And it can be healing in relationships that have created stress or strife in your life. It can be healing of a situation that you've been struggling with in your life. And it is all happening in the now, right? Right now, today, and in the foreseeable future, for the foreseeable future. Now, I highlighted in green, that's really clever, I think, your money houses. And I know for you in the audience, you're not seeing the chart with that highlighted thing, and I apologize for that, but it's across the 2nd and the 8th house. So if you're seeing my cursor, it's this part of her chart that I highlighted, right? And you see there's not much going on here, right? In the 8th house, she just has Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node moving into that. And in the second house, the North Node is passed through there. Mars isn't quite there yet, and Mercury are not quite there yet, but they're headed there. To me, this spells money being released. And that money being released for you creates a Plutoan transformation, but also Saturn and the South Node here in restructure mode. And I happen to know you were trying to sell a property, or you were buying out, if I remember correctly, you were buying out someone from your brothers. That's what it was. You were buying out your brother's parts of a property. And it looks like all is well in coming through for you, as I think you said it was next week that would happen. And that makes so much sense. Mars will be there then. Mercury will be closing in on that. And luckily, this is all happening before there is a retrograde Mercury or a retrograde Mars. So at this point, it seems like all things are go. And don't underestimate, it's not about the money here. It's not about the property, but there's something empowering in this process. This is almost like a ritual that's taken place here in your life. And the ritual is about you taking the torch, right? Grabbing, it's like a torch ritual where you're taking the flame, you're taking the fire, and you're taking your own life in hand. You're being self-centered. And when I say that is not a bad thing. By the way, anybody who thinks being self-centered is bad, you've got the wrong definition. Self-centered is that I have to know who I am, what I'm doing, what my gifts are, what my talents are, and be totally centered in myself in order to be able to give anything to anybody else in the world. In my world. Selfish is what you're thinking of when you have a problem with being self-centered, because self-centered says, from my knowing of myself, from my generosity of spirit, from my gifts and talents, I give. Selfish says that I'm not in centeredness, and so I'm taking from others in order to support me. Totally different vibe to those meanings. So you're becoming self-centered. You are gaining power. You are walking through your life with a new torch, a new flame. I also wanted to have you look at Uranus, because one of the questions you asked me, Allison, was about surprises. Are there any surprises? And yeah, possibly, right? Life is full of surprises. We have a weekend where we're going into some connections that are revelatory or awakening. And your natal Uranus, not your natal, but your transiting Uranus is opposing your natal Mars. Now, I could look at that as a couple of ways. It could be explosions. It could be conflict. It could be arguing. It could be all of that. But it's sitting in the 5th house and the 11th house. Maybe it's you finally stating clearly to the world, I am Allison Dragonetti, right? I am taking back my power. I am empowered, right? That's what this is about for you. Mars for you is in Scorpio. And I think in some ways there's been a lot of holding on to the past, a lot of holding on to the old, or to grievances, to the old stuff. And, Mars is very powerful in Scorpio. And I want you to elevate out of the Scorpion, the passive aggressive, Scorpion that would rather sting itself to death than cooperate, and take and elevate your perception to that of the eagle. And maybe even if you want to go further, go to the sign at the Phoenix, right? And let go of everything that has been, that you were, and recreate yourself in the image that you want to create for yourself, because it's very much what's possible for you now. Okay. I love doing this. And by the way, you also recently had Jupiter conjunct the sun, and then Jupiter retrograded, Jupiter transiting conjuncted your natal sun, and then it retrograded. So it's moving back, and you're going to have another pass at this, another Jupiter conjunct sun as you move into the fall. So you have lots of potential. right? It's possible that I don't know if there's a money exchange here. I know there's a property exchange here, but if there's a money exchange here, there's possibilities that that's a really good thing for you to, put down for your future, right? There's lots of to put it to work for you. So there you have that. I hope that helps for you, Allison. I am trying to recreate. No, try, do. Don't try, do. Recreate yourself. You've got the power. You've got the energy. You are going to have the resources. So recreate yourself. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing that. Go back to solo, and I'm going to bring that out of there. Okay. Wow, what a day, right? So thank you, girls, for letting me share your information out there and to do your readings. I know some of you were asking questions. Yes, 2 of these charts were Cancer rising. One was Scorpio rising. So if I look back here, no, one was Gemini rising, one was Cancer rising, and one was Scorpio rising. Because let's see, Serena's actually Gemini rising. So, but Cancer in her first house nonetheless. Okay. Kathy had a wonderful childhood and a wonderful dad, hardworking and never mean or raising his voice. You are so lucky. And let's see. And you know what, Kathy, that just gives me such wonderful insight as to why you left my dad when you did, right? Because you aren't going to stand for that, because that is not what you were raised in. So kudos to you. Kudos to your dad for empowering you to do what needed to be done when you did it. I love it. Okay, so that just says so much about you, Kathy. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I am done with readings, and I know some of you were asking. I'm trying to find who it was that asked. Michelle says she's never had a chart reading. Michelle, what I'll need you, I'm going to put my my email address up here, and it is Living Astrology 111 at Gmail. In order to be able to do a chart, I need your birth dates, right? I'll need your time of birth, your place of birth, and the date, and then we can do a chart. I do readings typically on, well, you don't because you're new here, but I tend to channel energy when I do a reading for somebody. And that means I need you here, because otherwise that channel just doesn't seem to open for me as powerfully. Then I have to rely on my mind and not on the channel, which is fine, but it's better when it's with people. Okay. And somebody else asked me about that. Of course, if any of you want a full reading, you can go to my website, living-astrology.com. There are lots of different types of readings: human design, astrology, transit readings, birthday readings, etc. And you can find those there. They're more personalized. Today, when we do readings like this, we're really just focusing in on one little piece. It doesn't really tell the whole story of you. Having a personal reading gets down to that story of who you are. And let's see, anything else I need to share? Remember, next week we start the Change Your Mind, Change Your Life Summit. Begins on the 11th and runs through the 16th. My part is on the 13th, Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. East Coast time. And I'm going to be taking up human design astrology, talking about the ajna in specific. How you can change your life by letting go of your reliance on your mind. Right? That's paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what we're going to talk about. Michelle, I'm located in Washington State, up in the northwest corner, just about 20 some miles from the border with Canada, maybe 30 miles. And yeah, but I do readings through Zoom, which is face-to-face like we're doing here today. Well, Zoom would be, you would also be on camera with me. Or we can do them by telephone, conference. Either way, the sessions are recorded and sent back to you after we're done. All righty. So that is it for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. So Michelle, we're in the same time zone then if you're in California. And Asa's looking forward to the summit. I am too. It's going to be fun. Let me also, that was my email address. Let me put up my website address for any of you. Janet Elaine. My fingers don't want to type right today. There we go. So there's my website. And anyway, so I'm looking forward to next week. I'll be on. I'm sorry, Lynn, I didn't get to the Pleiadian and energy, and it's 9:09. I have a client here in about 30 minutes, or 20 minutes. Oh my gosh, I gotta go. All right, guys, mwah, mwah, much love. If you've got your Pleiadian Earth energy calendar or book, look it up and live by that this weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. See you Monday.